The biggest mistake I made in my business was not hiring a professional to help me with my money. Not just my taxes, but the actual plan I had for my business. I was completely lost on how to handle taxes, what to do with profit, and how to maintain my income. I had to find a better way. That's when I found Core Financial. Core Financial is a team of tax professionals that actually care about building real relationships with their clients. They run my books, keep me up to date with my finances, and make sure I'm taking full advantage of all of my tax benefits. Are you struggling with your finances? Look no further. Core Financial is a brand that is nationwide that can help you with your business. Both Nick and I are huge fans of Core, and they can help you too. Check out howtofilmweddings.com/core to schedule a consultation today. Core Financial, real relationships, no surprises.
It seems like there are new cameras and equipment coming out all of the time. It gets increasingly confusing and the FOMO is real. John and I have been preaching for years that the best way to try out new gear is to rent before you buy. There is only one place that we recommend when it comes to renting, and that is our friends over at Lens Rentals. Lens Rentals is the premier source for renting not only camera equipment, but lenses, drones, projectors, and more. Do you have a big project coming up and you really need to wow your couple? Wanting to test out the newest camera before you drop thousands on it? You need Lens Rentals. My favorite thing is that if I love something I rent, I can keep it. They apply a portion of the rental fee to the purchase price, and within a few simple clicks, the gear is mine. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/lensrentals and use promo code HTFW15 at checkout for 15% off of your order. Lens Rentals, the only place we recommend renting. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Number 180, lots of these things that we have done together. John, it is so good to hang out with you and see you again today. It is now November, which is my birthday month. It's a big birthday month for me.
It is big for you. You're going to turn 40.
I know.
And we're having people on the show that are 20. I mean,
I know.
Double.
I know. Like,
yeah.
That's crazy. So, how are you? You just had a birthday.
Great. I'm old now. I'm 37. I just had my birthday on Saturday. Had a big family thing. People came over, hung out. We have our pool. We kept it heated, so we're able to swim and stuff. And so just had a good time with family. Got to see everybody. My daughter Anna turned 11 on the 22nd, and so we're just did like a joint family birthday. I didn't have a wedding this weekend. It was thank God the weekend was off. My birthday's on October 30th, and it was a Saturday, and it was just it was not booked. So we had a good time. So I'm feeling refreshed, and honestly, I am so pumped up because last week we did an episode with two of our complete wedding video students. And it's getting ever so close to the middle of November. This month, we are launching the complete wedding video course again. This is the fourth time we've ever had it available. It's only been available for 3 weeks, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people that have joined, and it has been life-changing. And so, Nick, 2 weeks away from today, we're going to be launching that course, and we have some really exciting things that I want to throw it back over through the internet to you about.
Yes, and to, get people in the headspace or to celebrate that, we are going to do a couple of free workshops in kind of celebration with the Complete Wedding Videographer course being launched. These are things that we know will help you, and we are calling it Filmmaking with Intention. Is that what we're calling it? Is that what we're calling it?
It's official. You said it.
We just talked about it before that. Yeah, official filmmaking with intention. One of the things since I have met John that I have done, I booked a wedding around the time for about $3,000, and I have booked several, 5-figure weddings, over $10,000 that I have booked. Last year, about a year ago, I booked a $12,500 package. My average booking keeps on going up and up, and so one of the things that we wanted to talk about is what are we doing to do those things? Like, what are the intentional things that we are doing? We're not just willy-nilly doing stuff here and there, which so many people do. So we want to take a couple of days and talk about the purposeful, intentional things that we are doing in order to grow our businesses and make more money doing that. So that is what the whole workshop is about.
If you have not heard, next year, 2022, is going to be the busiest wedding season of our lives. The last time they said that there were this many weddings was 1984. So not your lives, Nick.
I was alive. I was
born in 1984 as well. So like technically I've experienced one other wedding season like this before. But here's something that we talked about in our mastermind group not too many weeks ago is being intentional with our schedules. And if you don't get intentional and pay attention, you're going to book yourself out next year, and future you is going to hate current you. So if future you could give you a phone call 12 months from now to call you today, what would they say to you? And we're going to walk through in that 2-day workshop kind of everything that we're thinking about on how we can be intentional moving into 2022. So whether or not you purchase our course, you enroll in the course or not, this is a free workshop that we want to give to the community. And Nick, you can head over to howtofilmweddings.com/intention to get signed up. It's completely free. Yes, we're going to talk about our course while we're doing it. And yes, our course will be for sale during it. And we want you to join. We're not afraid to say that. We know that the investment into you, man, I get fired up talking about this stuff. The investment into you can give you stories like Kaylina had last week, or like Aaron and Yensi have had, where they're charging $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 just 3-4 years into their business because they're investing into their education. So I'm going to get off my soapbox because we have a very, very cool podcast today, Nick, all about intention. I'm going to throw it back over to you to talk about it, and then we can get in the episode.
Makenzy Smith from Northwest Focus Co. She came on the podcast today, and she has really blown up this year with her Instagram following and reaching people and connecting with people and getting her ideal clients and all that kind of stuff. So she talks a lot about that. But another thing that she spends a lot of time on is being intentional with her time, specifically when it comes to boundaries and priorities with her family, with her business, with her life, all of that sort of stuff. So, as we have our intentional workshop that we're going to have in a couple weeks, a lot of today's focus on the podcast is about intention. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast.
Let's go.
Well, Makenzy Smith, thank you so much for coming on the How to Film Weddings podcast today. For people that don't know you, don't know who you are, why don't you just introduce yourself and say hi to the How to Film Weddings community?
Cool. Hi, my name is Makenzy. I am a wedding photographer and videographer. I'm based out of Port Angeles, but I work mostly in Seattle, in the Seattle area. I used to do a lot of destination stuff, but now with tiny children, that's a little on the wayside. So I do a lot of local stuff right now, up and down the coast. And I've been doing this for photos for about 7 or 8 years professionally, and videos for the last 2 or 3.
That's awesome. So you're up in the Pacific Northwest region, do video and photo. You said you started the photo 8 years ago. And so what does business look like now? Are you mainly photo, mainly video, a little mix of both, or how does your business work?
So about 3 years ago, I kind of just started adding video in. I knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't really know how. And so I just kind of started doing these little video clips during my sessions and during wedding days. And then after the wedding day, I would just kind of play around with it and see what I could come up with. And if it turned out good, I'd send it to my clients. If it didn't, then no one really knew that I was doing those little video clips. And then I really got into it, and I really love having the ability. I think with my photos, I kind of got to a point where there was just certain moments that I couldn't quite capture the way that I wanted to. I couldn't really get, the depth that video can bring to something, or the really moving vows. So I love how that's kind of a nice combo. So I think my goal for next year is to try and have photo and video for as many weddings as possible. This year it was a little 50-50. For the most part, people book me for photo, and then a lot of times they'll add on a highlight video or something like that kind of just goes along with their day.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like it whenever people like look at their business and they're thinking, hey, how can I, make more for me and support my family, but also serve my clients and, offering all these different services and stuff. So that's really cool. So as you're, talking about, let's say on a wedding day, your company is doing both photo and video, which is what you said you want to do both. So right. What are you doing? Like, are you doing both photo and video, or are you like bringing people to do one or the other? What's kind of your workflow with that?
So it depends on the wedding day in terms of like size. So a lot of my couples now, especially since 2020 was such a crazy year for people to get married. Now I have a lot of elopements that people are kind of coming out this way. I'm right in the Olympic National Park. So I'm getting a lot more people that are coming out here versus me going to them. And when they're more of like that elopement style day, it's pretty easy for me to flip back and forth between photo and video. So I've got like 2 tripods, and now I have 3 cameras. So a lot of times for ceremonies, I'll set up 2 cameras with opposing angles for the actual like ceremony to catch video. And then I'll flip back and forth between photo and video. Just to make sure I capture all those moments. But if it's like a larger wedding day, then I'll have a second shooter, and usually they're just doing photo. So they're making sure that I don't miss anything so that I can kind of work on B-roll and work on like those leading into kinds of shots. And then they're making sure that they get the details, that they get, they're usually really focusing on the bride walking down the aisle and then the couples like kiss and walking back, because those are 2 moments that obviously can't really redo the same exact thing. So a lot of times that's where I really need someone to be able to capture the second angle for me and make sure that I'm getting photo and video.
Yeah. And
so on those bigger weddings, on those bigger weddings, are you then doing video exclusively, or are you actually doing both?
I always do both.
Wow.
I've tried doing just one or the other, but I'm like, I can't.
I love it.
Man, I love it. I think you're a unicorn there. Just there's not many people. Well, I mean, photo and video are very similar, so you can pick one or the other up, but they're different just enough where they kind of, my experience, use a little bit different part of your brain. Oh, yeah. Instead of go from like photo mode to video mode with like back and forth. I'm sure that's awesome.
It was funny
cool.
though, because I feel like, and so I had worked my whole, first 4 years of photo and finally gotten to the point where I used to shoot Canon. And so I had finally got to the point where I had all the gear that I wanted, every dream piece, every lens that I wanted. And then I got into video and I was like, I'm going to switch to Sony. And so I had to sell everything, start from ground zero, learn a whole new camera system while I was also learning on the fly how to do video. I have so many times where I was doing a shoot and I wanted to play around with something. So I would talk to my couples and they'd be fine with it. So I'd be sitting there with my camera out and my phone out, Googling how to figure out a certain type of shot that I wanted to do, or how to figure out the best way to do the slow motion shot that I wanted. Cause I always know what I want in my head. But then translating that to technically how I'm going to get that shot is so hard for me. I'm not a technical person, but I really have all these ideas for how I want to capture feeling. So it is kind of hard to flip back and forth, but since I switched to Sony, it's made a huge difference. The cameras are just so much faster and they do a really good job of flipping back and forth pretty easily, as long as I have good SD cards and I'm not overloading them with, GIF shots where I'm shooting so much at a time.
Yeah, and it's cool to see. After we had Alicia Films on the podcast, we'd asked her who do you recommend, and she told us about you. And so I've been watching you for the last month or so, just on Instagram, and how much you're including your personality and you and your brand, and who you are. And obviously one of the things we want to talk about today is Instagram, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But leaning into the fact that it's okay to not be a technical person, and to lean into the art, into what it is that you see in your head you want to do. What would you say to someone out there that maybe just is getting going, that is very artistic, not very technical? Can it be done without being a guru when it comes to the technical side?
I think you have to really know how to get information and get it quickly. So I always am such a proficient person at like Googling and then finding the right YouTube videos to watch and like figuring out how to do something. I don't think there's a day that goes by when I'm working that I'm not Googling and watching a YouTube tutorial while I'm also editing so that I can figure out the ways that I want to like tell someone's story. And it's hard. I get a lot of people who send me DMs or messages on Facebook and stuff, and they're like, hey, how do I do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I've Googled that transition probably like 500 times, and I watch the YouTube video every time to figure it out. I think that one of the best things for me when I started my photography business, I was not in any Facebook forums. I did not know any other real photographers. I knew a couple that were like studio photographers, but I didn't know anyone in the wedding industry really. And I was just really naive, but I think that helped me so much because I didn't overthink it. I didn't stress out about weddings. I wasn't nervous. I get people that ask me all the time if I was really nervous with my first wedding, and I wasn't. I didn't even know that I should be nervous. I was like, oh yeah, I'm great at taking pictures and wedding days seem super fun. And I just jumped right in and was really excited. Like now it's different. Now if I, want to do something new, it's like, it makes me nervous because I'm seeing all these other photographers and videographers who do amazing work. And then you're comparing yourself. But I think if you're starting out, it's obviously you want to do well and you want to learn and you want to be in like education types of forums, but you have to just do it. You can't sit and think and process and figure it out and think that at one point you're going to be good enough to just do it. You just have to jump in and spend time and really get to know your couples. And as long as you're a good communicator to them at where you're at in your process, like if you're not, super proficient at video, I never jumped in and said, hey, I'm a great cinematographer. I just said, here's something I really want to do. And it didn't seem like, a lot of my couples weren't doing video anyways. So I'm like, if I have a moment, are you okay with me catching some video clips and then I'll see what I can put together? So you obviously don't want to, overpromise and underdeliver, but jumping in, there's an art to it and it's fun.
Yeah. One thing that you said is you were talking about, starting the video side of stuff. You were just like, that's something I wanted to do. So I just did it. There's certain people out there that are going to, today, okay, I want to start doing this thing. So they're going to research it forever for 6 months and think about it and consume them. And then they get so worried about just starting it that they never start it because, they're information overload. And you're just like, I'm going to start this. I'm going to do this. And another thing that like whenever for our business, we started doing same day edits, like for the first 6 months when I did them, I did not mention it that we were doing them at the wedding at all. So the couple had no clue. And if I didn't get it done, there was no expectation to it.
Right.
And I like how you just were like, you know what, I wanted to do this, so I started doing this when I could, and I kind of learned along the way, like what not to do, but there was no expectation from it. So I think that that's I know that that's not everyone's personality to do that, but if you're out there listening and you want to try new things, like there is something to just jumping in and doing it and kind of learning along the way, as long as it's kind of a safe, like, you're not promising all this stuff that you've never done before, that sort of thing. So one thing that you mentioned, as you started photography a while ago, you're like, I didn't know anyone. Like I weren't in Facebook groups, and 8 years ago they weren't as big of a thing as they are now, and that kind of stuff. But as you've grown in your business and Facebook groups and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, how have you dealt with the comparison game? Because you said I just started it, and like how did you do that whenever you're getting going starting video and you're watching these other people that are doing video and you're thinking, well, how do I do that? How do I do well my stuff? So what was your experience with that? That was really long-winded and kind of rambling, but we got there, I think.
It's sorry. It's hard not to compare, but honestly, I think that the best part for me is that I had 2 small children, and between having a baby and like that, I always tend to pick things up that are difficult and at the exactly wrong time when I have no time to learn something new. So I would just be like watching YouTube videos of how to make video while I'm like breastfeeding my youngest. And so I'm like sitting on the couch doing it, and then I'm making snacks for my toddler, and I just didn't have time to compare. I didn't have time to like overthink it. It was just something I wanted to do. And I think that for me, I've always had really bad anxiety socially. And it's funny, it doesn't translate very well into my business because I know that I'm like a research oriented person, and like I know that I'm always doing the best I possibly can for my clients. So I'm always on some kind of course online, and I'm always like looking up something new and adding something new that I think will tell their stories better. And so I really focus on my clients and having communication with them and focusing on like, it's not about me, you know, and I'm not worried about being the world's best cinematographer. I'm just worried about, you know, these 2 clients I have this month for weddings, and what can I do for them? And have I told their story really well? Have I asked them enough questions before their wedding day to feel like I know them, so that I know the important moments for them? Like at that period in time, it's easy to not compare because they've probably not gotten married before. They probably haven't gotten a wedding video before. And they don't, I stress out about it. And when I hit send on a gallery or on a video and it goes over to them, and I'm like, you know, that moment of like, are they going to love it? And I always feel like I over deliver for my clients. And I always feel like they're really happy with what they get because I'm jumping in and doing as much for them as possible. So I try really hard to not scroll. I like to post my content and then get off of there and like hang out with my family and not stress about it. It's hard, but it's doable.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you said there. And like one of the things that I think that is really prevalent in our industry is like this imposter syndrome, comparing ourselves to so many different people. And you said something just about like you post your content, you get off of the internet if you can, and you spend time with your family. I want to talk or shift a little bit towards just like mental health in the creative industry. Just if we're creatives in general, you know, it seems like an industry where we are very heavily influenced by others and we compare ourselves a lot to other people. What's your stance? Like, what do you do to like make sure that your mental health is strong, that you're focused on the right things?
So my morning routine and my evening routine are really important to me. And with having small children right now, they're not perfect like they used to be. I used to have, you know, exact times that I did everything. But it's important to have those things that you do consistently and to schedule them in. So I'm very into meditation. I have the Headspace app and I'm constantly on there they have like programs for certain things. So they have meditations that'll take you through like, you know, each day you do something that kind of gets you to an end goal. Maybe it's like a 3-week meditation at the end. I do ones for anxiety on there quite a bit. Also for sleep, trying to make sure I get enough sleep. A lot of it is when I do feel really anxious and when I am having these problems with comparison and with imposter syndrome, figuring out where it's coming from. Because I think a lot of times we're just so used to scrolling our phones and we followed the same, you know, certain people for years. And there was a time when I had to completely unfollow and mute people that I knew in general because I just was comparing my life with theirs, especially when I was really busy in my work and I had a newborn baby. So I wasn't doing fun stuff. So I was like, okay, I can't be looking at anyone who's doing like really fun things. And sometimes like there's certain creators who I think are amazing and they inspire me. And sometimes I can't handle too much inspiration. So sometimes I have to like unfollow or mute those pages for a while and just not have that space. And I don't bring my phone in the bedroom. So if I'm coming to bed, there's no phones. I go and set mine out on the charger so that I'm not waking up on Instagram. I'm not going to bed scrolling Instagram. And I want to keep my room as like low profile as possible when it comes to electronics. So I think a lot of it is just like, we don't realize that we put ourselves in these traps of like scrolling our phones before bed, which can usually give us like bad dreams, even if you don't remember them, or we wake up and we jump right into the like internet world instead of like, I get up, I usually have to pick up some sort of crying baby. I get right to like breakfast for them, get my morning tea. I try and like go out on my balcony and like look out at nature, like breathe in some fresh air. It's nice that my kids pull me away from anything like that. You know, like in the mornings, we spend a little time watching cartoons and snuggling on the couch and things like that are nice to wake up in your own world, not in someone else's world. Really and then I try to be really mindful. Obviously, my job and your guys' job, you spend a lot of time online. So I try and be really careful about how often I'm scrolling, what I'm scrolling for. Like if I get off my phone and I feel depleted, like what did I just watch? Should I unfollow that person? Should I now it's like I just go on there for my business. So it's like even my personal page is semi business for me because I'm working on like some more type influencer things. I love to share with people. So people always ask me about like my routines or my clothes or things that I buy for the kids or, equipment that I buy. And so I really want to get more into that sharing type of space online. Right now, I don't have tons of time for it, for, setting up links for everything and doing the whole nine, but being really intentional with what I'm doing online. Is it for work or is it just because maybe I'm lonely or bored today? Like if you're getting on there in a bad headspace, it's probably not going to do too much good for you.
Really good.
Man, Makenzy, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I think I want to dive in a little bit deeper and talk some more maybe about your routines and some of the stuff that's really important to you and keeping this headspace that's a positive headspace, so you can be present with your family and all that stuff. And we are going to do that right after this break.
Hi, it's Michael from Wedditor. We want to thank everyone for the incredible support we've received since sponsoring How to Film Weddings. Yes, we've had some growing pains, but we've had far more wins. And we're doing something that's never been done. We're a remote team of over 50 editors in 10 countries. I often joke that we're as much a logistics company as we are a creative company. Right now, demand is off the charts. And we don't just say yes to everyone and scramble to figure it out. That's why we're asking you to help us help more of you. In short, we're looking for more talented Wedditors, part-time or full-time, work from where you want, when you want, as long as you hit deadlines and deliver quality. It's a chance to get paid while growing as an editor. Our project managers work with you, explaining why something feels right or doesn't, because there's always a reason. If you're interested, we'd love to hear from you. Go to wedditor.com/editor and fill out our form.
All right, we are back from break and we're continuing to talk to Makenzy, and she was really going into some of her routines and stuff that she's doing every day to keep herself sane and, think about her mental health and that stuff. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our Wedditor question of the day. Did I say that right? That kind of felt like it just kind of stumbled out. Our Wedditor question of the day. Wedditor, more than outsourcing, more than freelance. I might have got those backwards. I don't know. But anyway, Makenzy, what are some of the things that you are you kind of mentioned, no cell phones in the bedroom and all that kind of stuff. But what are like some of the rigid rules that have helped you the most? Let's go with like some different areas, so you have your business, what are some rigid rules that have really helped you, that in your mental space, maybe some other ones, as a mother that's a business owner, like what are a couple of those things? Cause we've gotten comments over the last, few months, people like, hey, I have a 5-year-old home or a 3-year-old at home or an infant, like, how do I do it all and like keep them separate, but also spend time? So what are some of your tips for those things?
So as a mom in business, there's tons of parenting styles, of course. And there's lots of people that have, there's Montessori and there's all these different kinds of like parenting things. But one of my favorites, there's an author, her name's Janet Lansbury, and she has a podcast called Unruffled. And she also has a book called Toddler Discipline Without Shame. And her parenting style really helped me. I listened to her stuff when I had my first, and one of the things she talks about a lot is when parents are working, and especially if they're in a home space, because a lot of times stay-at-home moms are also like doing some form of work. And so she says it's hard as a parent we want to take on all these things for our kids. We want to like make sure they're happy 24/7, make sure they're entertained all the time. I'm not a craft mom, and I'm not really like a set up entertainment for my kids kind of mom. I try to just bring them into things that I already have to do and be really intentional with the time that I do have with them. So whether that's making food, I try and get them in the kitchen with me as long as it's safe-ish. My 3-year-old will crack eggs if we're making breakfast. And it's a little harder holding my 15-month-old on my hip while I make breakfast, but having those little intentional times for things that I already need to do, whether that's folding laundry, they'll sit and fold with me. Usually that makes it take a little bit longer, but it's fine. And like making breakfast together. We're really intentional about our food intake because I feel like it's kind of an overlooked thing when you're really busy. So we try and make sure we're not eating a lot of processed foods. We don't eat a lot of red meat. We try not to do a lot of dairy. I'm the worst with that because I'm cheese. I really like cheese. But we try and keep as much dairy out as possible and feed the kids like really healthy. And we notice a huge problem if they have too much sugar. So spending those times during the day, I mean, that's at least 3 meals that I'm stepping away from the computer and stepping away from any work that I'm doing to spend time with them in the kitchen, and then sit down and eat those meals with them. My 15-month-old is like a huge mess every time he eats. So that's like a whole routine of feeding the kids, and then he has to go straight into the bath almost every time. But instead of like, I used to get stressed. I used to be like, oh, I got to do all these things, and then I got to feed the kids. And so then I was kind of rushing through these moments with them. And then I'd feel bad at the end of the day that I didn't like set aside time for us to go do something and play outside. Whereas like in Janet Lansbury's books, she talks about how like these little caretaking moments that you have with your kids can be really important to them, and they can be really bonding. If you already have to do it, you might as well, settle into that moment with them and have a good time. So I really do try to do that. We also, we bring in, I've had a housekeeper both times that I've had a newborn, and they usually come in once or twice a week. And at first I couldn't even fathom having someone come in and clean my house, because it just seemed like something I should be able to get done. But when I actually looked at how little it cost compared to how much money I could be making sitting on the computer instead of cleaning my house, it was like mind blowing that I could just have someone come in and do these things that were stressful for me and took away from my business and my kids, and just do that instead. So I think outsourcing in any effect is great. This year is probably one of my biggest for outsourcing. I've outsourced my blogging to Danielle Johnson. She's an insane blogger. She's upped my SEO like crazy. And that was something now I'm caught up, but I was like a year and a half behind on blogging my sessions. So having a blogger come in and do stuff, I don't like to outsource editing just because I feel like that's where a lot of my photos and my video come to life. And I don't have a lot of my stuff is more kind of like weird and film like and kind of like funky. It's not like very consistent in terms of like, I don't just do like a chronological wedding day video, which there's totally nothing wrong with that. That's just not the way that like my videos go. So outsourcing that for me wouldn't probably do me much good. I feel like I would outsource it and then I'd like redo it myself. So those kind of things are important. Outsourcing and like figuring out where am I making my money and where am I enjoying my time, and then prioritizing those things. Because I feel like sometimes when you're staying at home with kids and you're running your business, you think that you have to be doing it all. And that if you're not able to get to the dishes every single day, that's like some sort of failing.
And I want to add too, like, so I know a lot of people, like my wife, she's a stay-at-home mom, and like she will feel like a failure if she didn't go do something outside with the kids, or if she wasn't feeling well that day and just like all she could do was all she could do. But you see these things on the internet, and kind of talking about what you were saying earlier, I'll always ask, it's like, have you been on Instagram a lot today? And she's like, yeah. And it's like, oh, well, that's, part of, is that depleting you, or is that giving you energy? And then, you're talking about like a housekeeper. And I think that there's just this stigma around outsourcing things in your life that you either don't have time to do, don't want to do, and like that you should fit in a box of, oh, well, you're a mom at home, so you should be able to take care of that. And it's like, well, you are able to make more money doing something else. You might not enjoy that, and it gives you more time with your kids, and it's a season. So, it's like doing that during that season to fit you. I know people that, are judgmental of me that I work on Saturdays sometimes. And it's like, well, on Monday and Tuesdays, I have a ton more time with my family than you do while you're at your job or whatever. And so not comparing yourself among yourself in an internet world where everybody is posting their best self on social media all the time. And it's this vicious cycle where you never feel like you're good enough. You're not a good enough mom or a dad or a business owner. So I really appreciate you saying that.
I jump in all the time on my own Instagram stories, and like I just did this last week and jumped in and was like, hey, I just feel like I've gotten some messages recently when I've posted like meals or a wedding that I'm at or something, where someone will message me and be like, oh my god, you do so much, I can't ever get that done. So I like turned my camera around and I was like, I just want to show you guys like what my house looks like right now, because it has been a crazy busy season, and both of the people that nanny our kids have like not been able to be here for months. And so it's just, there's been like no time for me to get anything done besides work and kids. And so like, I'm probably like a month behind on laundry. At one point, we even like bought extra socks for the kids because I just could not find where any of the socks were. And I'm like, just go to Walmart and buy the socks. Like, I'm not going to worry about getting through the laundry to get them socks. Just buy the damn socks. Like, I'm not going to worry about it. And so there's like certain things that I prioritize, but that means that like a lot of stuff is not done. Like, I'm a Halloween addict, and like I didn't put up Halloween decorations until like 2 weeks into October, and I was really sad for myself. I was like, there's no skulls anywhere. There's no cobwebs. Like, I'm dying inside. I'm really sad. But there's just certain things that like this last Sunday, we did like an apple cider press party for our kids, and went and picked apples, and then went and used like my dad's old fashioned cider press. And I invited some people over, and it's like, normally my hosted events have everything done, and there's like all this little drink area, and there's all these great home cooked foods. And like this time I went to Safeway and I got rotisserie chickens and pulled the chicken off of that and added like barbecue sauce and got hoagie rolls. And I was like, that's what the kids will eat. They'll be fine. Everyone will have fun. I just wanted to like at least have that memory for them this year, even though like I'm crazy busy, the kids are crazy, and they're still in such a young phase where it's like I'm losing my mind half of the time with them. But it's just a season. So like this year has been one of my most profitable years, but it's also been one of the years that I've spent the most money on outsourcing, on DoorDash, on anything that I can do to like get a free minute. So sometimes I sit down and I'm like, well, that sucks. Like, I could be making more money if I was able to take on these things on my own. But I also have to like think about the fact that next year my kids will be a year older. My 3-year-old is already so proficient at taking care of himself and getting his own snacks and playing outside. And so when my 15-month-old gets to a little closer to that age, they'll have so much more time to do things on their own. And my 3-year-old's in preschool 3 days a week. So once they're both into school for a little bit, that's going to be set time that I have for those things. So those things will come, and I'll have my stuff together, you know, at some point. And next year I'll probably throw a Halloween party that's going to be beautiful, and everyone's going to wonder how I did it. But like, I've been thinking about that Halloween party, and it's not even Halloween this year yet. So those things will come. I'll have time for them. I'll have silence and space and a clean house at some point. But right now it's okay to just know that I got snuggles in, and I got a wedding sent out, and I'm doing the best that I can for the people in my life without sacrificing things for people on the internet.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out that I appreciate you, saying, and you're like, hey, how do you do all this stuff? And you're like, well, look at how messy my house is, or, whatever. I think that's probably, it definitely is the worst thing about social media is that, someone looks at you and they think, oh, her life is so perfect. She's such a great mom, and she's doing all this stuff with her kids, and look at all this stuff that she, and like, that's exactly what you were talking about. It was like, okay, this is why I don't spend so much time scrolling on Instagram. This is why I don't do this stuff, is because I start thinking these things about other people, and then I feel bad about myself because I can't, do all this kind of stuff or whatever. There was this, I saw this quote. Did you guys see this one? It was like, Beyonce has the same number of hours in a day that you do. Like, you could be Beyonce. Right. And there was this guy that got on, who's like, that's the biggest load of crap I have ever heard in my life. She has 15 assistants and a housemaid and, cleaning up all this stuff. So she's going to do way more than you. And we don't, we look at other people, and, we're comparing, John and I say this all the time, we're comparing our behind the scenes to their highlights. Right. And, we don't know what's going on from behind, and, we don't know all of that kind of stuff. So thanks for sharing that. I think we're going to go to break here real quick, John, right? We'll go to break, one more break. And then when we come back, we have a few more things to talk about, some more stuff with Makenzy. So we'll do that real quick.
Finding the perfect song for your wedding film can be so frustrating. We spend countless hours searching for the perfect song. When it comes to licensing music, Nick and I both love MusicBed. Not only do they have the best music, but their website makes it so easy to find the perfect song and to find it fast. We have both been using the MusicBed's wedding subscription for years and cannot recommend it enough. Not only are they adding new music from incredible musicians like Chapters, The Light, The Heat, and Tony Anderson all the time, they've made it incredibly easy to search their library for mood, genre, instrumentation, and even key. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed and use promo code HTFW for a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription. howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed.
Okay.
All right, we are back from break with Makenzy Smith from Northwest Focus Co. We've been talking about a lot of cool stuff here today, just about mental health and running a business while having kids and running a business in an internet world. So you have gotten a pretty large following on your Instagram. I don't know when it started to grow for you, but I think I checked it was 40,000 people following along now, which is great. And a lot of people, like, they're aspiring to be that and to get that. And that means a lot to them. Or like the number next to your name. We talk about that a lot. Like, people just, that's what all they care about is this number next to their name on Instagram. To somebody that does have a bigger following for our industry, like, what does it mean to you? Does it matter to you? What would you say to somebody that has 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers and all that? Like, what does it actually mean? Like, does this mean anything to have this? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I had gotten to about 8,000 followers on my personal page and about 4,000 followers on my business page back in January of this year. And I think my personal page had only really grown so much because before I had kids, I was really into like hunting and fishing. And so I had done a bunch of like sponsored stuff for companies. And so I was kind of big on that end of things in Instagram. And then, of course, as soon as I had kids, I don't have time for hunting and fishing right now. And so I'm a lot more boring and it turned into a lot more kid content. So then I like lost a bunch of followers and then they came back a little bit with like more mom followers. And my business one in January, I kind of got to the point where I used to run Instagrams for other companies back when I first had my first son in 2018. That was kind of when weed stores were getting popular in Seattle. And I knew a couple people that were opening them and I would run their Instagrams for them. And it was just kind of a nice way to like make money and do something from my phone while I had a small baby and while I wasn't able to take on a lot of weddings. So I kind of knew what to do on Instagram in terms of you should really be consistent at your posting. You have to like have kind of a brand and an idea and keep things cohesive. And so I had gotten to play around on Instagram for other people's pages for a while. And in January, I was like, I never follow my own advice. Like, here I am just like doing things half-assed on here. And like, I know that I have so much I want to share with people. Like, I just like to share recipes and all sorts of different kinds of things. And I like to show behind the scenes because I feel like Instagram can be such a great way to show your clients so much more than a website can, because it can be so personal. And so I thought about it and I sat down in January and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it like an actual content strategy. I'm going to sit down and say like, this is how many posts per week. This is how many stories per day. This is how many. And that was like when Reels started to get really popular. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And so I sat down and I thought about like my ideal client. So like, if I want to have a good cohesive page, I need to be talking to someone. I don't just want to try and talk to everyone, because then you're not being yourself. And it also creates this like scaredness. I don't know. I would like be on my stories and I'd be like, hi. And then it's awkward. And then like people don't want to watch it. It's like, you have to be talking to someone that's like your friend. And so I sat down, I wrote out my ideal client. I thought about the types of weddings I wanted to work. And then I thought like, for me, Instagram is where my ideal client is. Like, I do a lot more like trendy kind of weddings, a lot of like elopements, a lot of small intimate micro weddings. I'd like to do more like brewery nighttime weddings, kind of like funky stuff. And so if I was going for big weddings, I think it might be more on terms with like working on my website more, or Google, or like Facebook even. But for who I'm looking for, Instagram is really the place. And so I started scaling it up. And I mean, it was within like, after I posted like 10 to 15 reels, they started to just go crazy. I mean, at first it was like 300 views on each one of them. And I was kind of like, should I keep doing this? Because it's kind of embarrassing to make reels. And it wasn't something like, I'm an artist. I don't want to sit here and like lip sync to a comedian sketch. But like, I loved TikTok at the time. I thought people were super funny. And I'm like, if I did that, it would probably turn off the clients I don't want. Like, if I'm putting stuff out there that's like funny and dorky, and like I already had been posting a lot on my stories where like I'm myself, so I'm like cussing and, I don't know, drinking a beer or something with my clients. And so I've always tried to do things that the formal clients that I don't want to work with will see my stuff and be like, not her. and it kind of sucks. Like, it's kind of hard, especially now that things are popular. Like, having a following is cool because I am getting the coolest inquiries with the coolest couples, and they already know me. So it's easy. Like, the conversations after their first contact form with me are easy. They add me on Instagram. We're like Instagram video messaging each other back and forth. We send each other reels. Like, they're my friends. So that makes it really easy now. But like, getting to that point and having people not like your stuff is really difficult. That's really hard for me.
Nick, did you want to add? I have another thought. You look okay. I want to keep going on this.
Yeah, go for it.
So like, I think a lot of people though will, like you said, you posted a lot of content before it really started to go, and you were consistent, and you know, your messaging, you knew who your client was. I think a lot of people just chase after things because they're shiny and they're like exciting. What would you say to somebody that's like got a smaller following? Like, I know I kind of asked this, but like, should they just keep going? Should they really niche down into like really knowing their ideal client? Like, what have you seen the best thing to grow? Like, it's not just to grow that number next to your name, but it's what you just said a minute ago, like where you're getting these inquiries from it. So like, if I'm in my first or second year, there's so many social media things. It's a little overwhelming. It's like, what would you say to them about like how they could be consistent? Maybe is what I'm asking you. Like, how can we do that?
I think having a content strategy is important. Like, actually sitting down and writing out, like, what is my business? What are my colors? What are my, like, if my business was a store, what kind of person would want to walk in here and hang out? And for me, I was kind of all over the place for a little while because I have so many interests. And that's why I have a separate personal account and a separate business account. I know some people like to do all of theirs on one. But I just have so many different ideas of things I always want to post and talk about. And so on my business page, I try to keep it really niche down to just like couples and weddings and talking to that person. And I do a lot on stories. It's a lot of like personal content. On reels, it's like, you want to be somewhat trendy, but like put your own spin on it. Sometimes it's hard because you're supposed to be putting out so much content. And I really think if you have your brand message, like if you have your brand and you know the person that you're trying to reach, like I knew in January the types of couples I wanted to work with, and I knew that they were there. I knew they were out there. I was just really frustrated because I wanted them to see me. I'm like, if these people see my page and they see my work, I know they're going to want to work with me, because at certain weddings that I would be at during a reception, I would have people come up to me and they're like, oh, the couple told me you were going to be here. You like looked at your work and I wish I would have had you for my wedding. Or like, I never have seen photos like that before. When I had like a Viking wedding, and I do some really like funky photo shoots that are like Halloween themed, or I like a lot of like dark kinds of photos. If you're doing like a lot of playing with shadows and blacks, I like really deep blacks and things like that. And that's not everyone's style, but I knew that if I could reach more people on Instagram, that those people would find me and it would work out really well. So I really think it only takes about a month of being consistent. And by consistent, it's a lot of work. Like I do probably 4 to 5 posts every week, 4 to 5 reels every week. And I'm try to do like between 10 and 15 stories at least, which can just be like resharing stuff. But I also try to show people my kids and my, view of coffee in the morning and my favorite movies. And like, really, I want people to know me. I want them to feel like they have this trust with me, because that's what I want with my clients. So I think if you're consistent for a little while and you really have a clear message, people will find you. Like you can honestly start an Instagram on anything these days and people want to follow it. It's just, they want to show up and they want to know what they're getting.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's really good info. And John, I think you're right. People like, they want the 10,000 so we can get the link feature or the swipe up or whatever they change it to or whatever. But there's no like purpose in it. And you see, Makenzy, you were like, okay, I have these things. This is my path. And this is the direction I'm going to go in order to get it. And that is what is lacking in so so many people's businesses and think, it's in our industry specifically, we don't have people that start businesses because they want to start a business, right? There are some that do that, but there are so many that are like, I'm creative and I just want to be creative. I want to take photos. I want to make videos, but like the business side of stuff kind of comes later. And so that's really, really solid advice on growing, especially Instagram on that side, which you have been able to do with that. So if people are interested in following you and seeing, how, you're doing these things and reaching out to those clients and, finding your people, where can they find you?
So I'm primarily on Instagram right now. So that's Northwest Focus Co. My personal page is just Makenzy Smith. And I do kind of like post different content on both of those things. There's obviously more mom content on my personal page and more business stuff on my business page, but they do overlap quite a bit. My website is amazing. I paid a lot for this wonderful Kat Cosma. She's so great in person and I love her. She's awesome. And that was another thing where it was like, I knew what I wanted my stuff to look like. And I knew that I wanted like this very clear vision of like it being dark and magical and kind of like fun. And, but my old website did not look like that. And I tried really hard. I tried for a long time. I Googled a lot of things to try and make my website perfect. And then finally I was like, this girl knows what she's doing. I think having a brand person for something, like she really set me on that direction too, where in January I felt like I could just like shoot for the stars with my business page because she had given me these like graphics and these tools to really niche down to the color scheme I wanted and things that I wanted, which beforehand was kind of all over the place. So you can find my website. It's thenorthwestfocus.com. Mostly just Instagram. I'm going to try and ramp up my Facebook here a little bit because I have so many blog posts from having a person run my blog. So I'm going to do that now that I'm in my off season once I catch up on all this fun editing that I have to do.
Awesome. Well, we are really, man, I'm sorry. I was looking at your beautiful website. Like that's what I was doing. You just said it and I wanted to pull it up. Like I was like, holy cow. It is so cool.
She blew my mind and I came with like 1,000 ideas and I was like, I don't know, but this is all the things that I like. And somehow she took all these like random things that I like and just like made me a little baby me.
Like I looked at it and I was like, this is really cool. This is really unique. And then I was like, but I don't know how I would describe it. And you said the words, what did you say? Dark and magical or something. And I was like, yep. Like that is those two words. So anyways, go check out Makenzy's website, follow her on Instagram so you can see all the cool stuff that she's doing. Makenzy, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time and talking to our audience about Instagram and mental health and all the important stuff that you did today. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Makenzy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We really appreciate you taking the time. And we want to remind you again of our free workshop, the Filmmaking with Intention workshop that is going to happen in 2 weeks from today as this goes live, November the 15th. So if you would like to register for that event, all you need to do is go to howtofilmweddings.com/intention. That's howtofilmweddings.com/intention. You can register for that, get signed up for it, and join all of the yummy goodness that is the Filmmaking with Intention workshop. That was weird that I said yummy goodness, but I did. John, as always, it has been great to hang out with you for this time today. And until next time, we will see ya.
See you guys.
Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films to your couples? Look no further. Our friends over at WedFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. WedFlow is pay per project with no large upfront cost or commitment, and you can cancel anytime. Not only that, WedFlow offers a premium viewing experience for your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years hosting and an experience for your clients that will blow them away. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way and give your couples something to rave about. Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/WedFlow to check out WedFlow today.